Not half an HP.
I have most of my products are HP. I think you use that crap.
Yeah.
Or you have
I think they infiltrated my.
Or you have too many tabs open all the time.
Bill, why don't you come down here real quick and have a seat. I'm gonna check the framing on this.
Sure.
Is he in frame, Hala?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna come around. You just stay right there.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Yeah, I got it set to 4K as well. I'm gonna pull this back some, that way I can get some vertical clips out of it too. Yeah, 16 Plus Pro Max, 4-wheel drive.
Got all the options.
LTD. All right. How's that looking, Hala?
It looks good.
Okay. So if it flips, if I had to slice out like the middle third of it, would it be able to put both of us in it, or pretty close?
I would say so. I would probably. There's a lot of space on this side right here.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to kind of shift it over?
Try to.
Like, I'll take a picture so you can see.
Center us.
Yeah, just drop it right down the center between our two elbows. Oh yeah, it definitely needs to come over to the side.
Shift it a little bit more to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just balance it out.
Focus.
Cool. So recording?
Yes.
Sweet. All right. So, a couple things to go over with hierarchy, big picture, right? So by the time we get to a homebuyer 101, we've already been introduced to the lead somehow, some way, right? So it's a referral from someone, or it's a Zillow Connect, or you met them at an open house or something like that. And usually that's followed up with a 15-minute phone call. It's just a basic discovery call. The discovery call is, hey, I heard you want to buy a house. That's so exciting. You want to puff it up, bring the energy up. Tell me more about that. I want to know what you're looking for. Where are you trying to buy? Why are you trying to buy? Give me an idea of the vision. Is this for a lot of people? You got a big household you need to have rooms for? How long are you going to live there? Basic stuff, right? What you're trying to do is get a Cliff Notes version of this person's situation to see if it merits coming and having a conversation in the first place. This whole thing, this whole process of working with buyers is taking a widget, bringing it into your little factory, running it down the conveyor belt, and spitting out a transaction on the other end. That person wants a transaction. That person needs a house. We need a sale. That's why we work together. So the whole time that you're talking to people and going about your day-to-day life, what you're thinking about is getting widgets and putting them on your conveyor belt and putting them out the other side into sales. Every time you have a conversation with a person, what you need to be thinking about is, how am I getting this person further down the line, closer to the sale? What do they need in order to do that? Not my timeline, not my needs, their needs. What's holding them back? Or if it's nothing at all, cool. How can I just make their trip more enjoyable? How can I be of service to this person so that they allow me to continue to be the person that works with them? I.e., how do they stay on my conveyor belt instead of jumping off and getting on somebody else's, right? So if we ask ourselves, I don't know what to talk to this person about. What do I talk to them about? Ask questions, find out what they need, right? I have to meet this person, but I don't know why I'm meeting them. Well, why are you meeting them? What's the purpose of the conversation? Meaning, what's the thing that you have to unlock to get them to the next step? The whole purpose of our meeting here at a Homebuyer 101 is so that we can educate them on the process ahead and then get them prepared to make the next step to go to lending. So you might be asking yourself, why even do a Homebuyer 101? Why not just kick them over to lending in the first place? You know why?
Because we need to know their situation and tailor that plan to their specific situation and outlook.
There you go. Exactly. Why send somebody to lending if it doesn't make sense? Or what lender do we send them to? If they're 55 and up and they need somebody that's going to give them a loan that's more tailored to senior citizens, cool. Grab a lender for that. If they're VA, send them there. If they need a down payment assistance program, there are other lenders that specialize in that most lenders just really don't even want to like stay up to date with all those programs. So your lenders are like your golf clubs, right? You need to pick the right one. And some people come in, they're not even ready for the process at all, right? But take all those guys out of the equation. Doing a homebuyer 101 is giving the client the information that they need so that they can actually move forward confidently with what's going on. 90% of agents do not do this. And I can tell you, as a career buyer's agent, this is a foundational piece of your whole process. If you shortcut this, it will make your life difficult from this point forward. If you don't believe me, you can ask Tawanda, because she's had a record number of failed transactions that could have all been prevented by having a good homebuyer 101. Her issue is the source of the leads that she got forced her to skip this process. She got handed Zillow leads and they were just sent to her. They were like, go sell, go open a door, put her in the door, put them in the door and sell them a house. She'd get into escrow, they'd get super confused, stressed, freaked out, they'd cancel. Contrast that to my process. I meet referrals, I have a conversation with them, I have a 101, I inform them of the whole process. If they're not cool with it, we end here, done. Sometimes they take a break and then come back to me a few months later. Sometimes they just decide they're just not into it. Awesome. Saves them a lot of trouble, saves me a lot of trouble. The other people that come in, they go through the buyer 101, they learn, they understand what's coming. So when it does come, they're not freaked out, they're not stressed out, they know what's happening and they're prepared for it. Transactions go smoothly, close rate super high, referral rate super high. And this takes an hour. And you can do it in far less time if your person doesn't need all the information. Okay? So to recap, you get a lead from somewhere, whether it's your home buying classes you do on base, referral from somebody, you pick them up off social media, you have your 15-minute conversation with them, and then while you're talking to them, hey, you sound like a really great candidate to go buy a house. I'm super excited to help you out with that. The next thing to do, or the best thing to do, is to get together and talk about the home buying process and let you know how everything works, and then put a plan together to get to the next step. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes. You can meet up at my office or Starbucks, or I can come to you. Which way would you rather do it? Or what sounds good to you? Or what would you prefer? Whatever, however you want to end it, doesn't matter. But what I recommend is, or the next thing to do is, or the best thing to do is, let's get together and have this 101. Then that's when we sit down and we meet here. So that's where this video is going to basically kick off. Cool. Awesome. So the person comes in, you sit them down. Bill, so glad you could make it out to meet with me today. I'm really excited to go over the home buying process with you. Telling me your story with, your kid and everything that you want to do with the house and all that stuff. Super excited to get you rolling. So as promised, I want to go over the home buying process with you and show you basically start to finish how all this whole thing's going to play out so that you're prepared for it and ready to rock and roll. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's go.
Cool. So I've done this about 3,000 times. And in that process, I've learned that it's best to have a slide deck. I promise it's not going to be the slide deck. I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death, but this is just going to help me, stay on track here and get us through this thing. Also, the slide deck that I have here is yours to keep. I'm going to send you a copy of this after we part today. That way, if there's anything that, kind of cruised over your head or you just forgot at the end of the meeting, which will happen, you've got this forever to look back to. Okay?
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, welcome to Navigating the Buyer Process. I'm Matt Honeycutt, of course. All right. The buying process is 7 steps, okay? First one is getting yourself a real estate agent. You're in luck. I'm already here. A lot of people get this wrong. They go shopping for a house first. They may go to an open house or something like that. And I can tell you why that's a little problematic. But the best thing to do as a consumer is to get yourself set up with a good real estate agent before you begin this journey. And you're in good hands right now. My job as a real estate agent is to explain the process to you, do the consultation, and help you understand what's coming down the road. I'm your tour guide through this whole thing. I'm your I'm your agent. I'm leading the whole process for you, clearing everything out of the way. I give you referrals to different people that you don't have to go out and shop for, like lenders, title companies, escrow companies, and stuff like that, because I'm in the business and I do this every day and I see these people all the time. So I'm a good judge of who would be a best fit for you for these people, right? Once we have our conversation here today, the next thing I'm going to do is have you cruise over to lending. Most people aren't buying a house cash. We're not buying a house cash, right?
No.
Great. So we're going to need a loan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't have a lender already set up, right?
I do not. No.
Perfect. So after we have our conversation today, the next thing to do is go talk to a lender. The lender is going to do a pre-approval for you and essentially give you a green light to actually go buy a house with a loan. So they're going to help you put the bullets in the gun. After that, the fun part, we go shopping. Shopping usually is a process of going out every weekend because new homes come on the market every week and they usually open up for the weekends. So once we get started, we'll look at homes together online. We'll have a conversation about those homes. We'll pick the ones that are the best fits for you. I'll weed out the ones that have uglies on them that you can't see that I can see. And then we'll get ourselves a short list, and weekend after weekend, we'll go out there and hit them until we find you just the right place.
Sounds good.
Cool. After that, we're eventually going to find a house that we really like. And when we do find a house that we like, we're going to make an offer on it, which is an offer to buy it. We'll write up a contract that says, hey, I'd like to give you so much money for this house, close in so many days, etc. There's a lot of details to that. We're going to put out probably a couple offers before one gets accepted, but when one does eventually get accepted, that's when we enter the escrow period. Have you ever heard the term escrow before?
I have not.
Cool. Escrow it's kind of a fluid term. Escrow is a holding process, right? We have a third party come in and they're kind of like a bookie, right? One person gives them the keys, one person gives them the money. They hold on to both of them until we agree. Once we agree, they hand over the keys and the money and everybody's good to go, right? That's the escrow. It's a process, but it's also a person that facilitates that process, right?
Sounds good.
That usually goes on about 30 days. Once we get through that, then, and a lot of people get caught up on this, we got to prepare to move into this puppy. We get really caught up with the lending and, oh, did I get a good rate? And, did I buy at the right time? And did I pay a good price? But, buddy, you got to live here. So we need to get the truck packed up. We need to get the house packed up, the kids, the dogs, and everything else, and get you into the place. And then once all that's said and done, the final step, arguably the most important, take a deep breath and celebrate what you've done. You set yourself up for the next 8 to 30 years in this property. Depends on your plan and your timeline, but generally people hang on to a house about 8 years, but you got a 30-year mortgage. So somewhere between that range, you set yourself up for a lot of future success. So you should give yourself a pat on the back when we're all done. Okay? What we're going to go over here today is I'm going to talk about what a real estate agent is. Because I know it sounds silly, but a lot of people have misconceptions about what we do for people, and I want to just lay all that out for you. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. Then we're going to go over the road ahead, okay? We're going to talk timelines and expected costs of this process. The reason that's important to talk about now is I don't want that to be a surprise for you when the time comes and people are like, hey, you owe us money for this or you owe us documents for that, right? I want you to be very clear about what's expected to come so you're prepared for it. Then we're going to get into a deep dive on mortgages and we'll talk about VA loan essentials. I'm understanding that we're probably going to use a VA loan for this one since your prior service, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Awesome. Great. Okay, I'm going to jump right into agency here. Agency is the legal relationship between an agent and a consumer. My job is to provide you a fiduciary duty to serve you and to look out for your best interests, right? The way to think of it is the seller is selling a house. They have a listing agent. That listing agent is kind of like their attorney. Right? They're representing that agent. They're trying to give them the best deal possible. My job is to defend you in this process and make sure that you get the best deal possible on your end and that you're as protected as possible. There's several things that an agent does for you: consultation, access, and representation. Okay? Consultation is what we're doing right here, right now. Making a plan, getting to the bottom of what your needs are, figuring out what resources you have, and putting them all together so that you can actually go out and get done what you need to get done. Access, that's simply just showing you homes. That's the cheapest and easiest thing that any real estate agent can do. But we do that really well because I have a big team and we got a ton of people that'll get you out there into any house that you want to see. So that's not a problem. Any house that's on the market, whether it's on Zillow or the MLS or it's just a sign in front of somebody's front yard, if it's listed for sale, I can get you in that house. So there's no need to call anybody else for that. Okay. And then last but certainly not least is representation. This one's actually probably the most important part. Who you choose to be your real estate agent to show homes and get you an offer accepted on a house matters, because that person is going to be the one that takes you through the escrow process. In other states, the escrow process is handled by closing attorneys. There are people with full-blown like law degrees that pass the bar exam that handle that part of the process. In California, that's your real estate agent. So if you grab somebody off the street, just any old Joe Schmo, and you got into a transaction with them for 30 days, you could be getting yourself into the weeds really quickly. So you want to choose very carefully who you decide to even go shop with or have your initial consultations with before you get to that stage. Make sense?
It does.
Okay, perfect. So that being said, before we can actually go out and view homes, what you and I will have to do is agree to have a buyer broker agreement. It's essentially you saying, hey, I want you to be the person that shows me homes and agree to get paid for showing me those houses. You're my guy. Once we have that agreement, if you decide at the end of this thing today that we're a good fit and you want to work with me, we'll get that agreement signed. That way, when we get ready to go shopping, we'll be all legal beagle. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. And I'll explain to you in a couple minutes what the ins and outs of that agreement are. Okay. All right. Background with me. I did 10.5 years Navy. Bought a couple of houses while I was in. After I bought my first house, neighbor across the street came over and said, hey, you want to buy my house? So I said, yes, of course I do. So I bought my neighbor's house, and then I started renting out my first house. As soon as I started renting out my first house, a light bulb went off and said, wait a second, like I can keep doing this and have somebody else pay my mortgage. That's awesome. So from that point, I was hooked. Decided to get out of the military, went to work for a real estate developer, and I learned everything about real estate from the ground up, from the back door to the front door. Building houses, running construction crews, fix and flip, wholesale, financing, like all of it. Well, somewhere along the lines, the developer that I went to work for encouraged me to get my real estate license. He said, Matt, this is a great way for you to make a little extra money. Think of it like a qual. And I was like, okay, I'll go get a qual. So I got my license, started reaching out to my military network, folks just like you. I was like, hey, I do this real estate thing. Well, I started to get lots of questions from my community, and people had no clue about the VA loan. They had no clue about the ability to build wealth through buying a house and all these things. And then at that point, it became clear to me that this is what I need to do. So I kind of left the investing, building world behind and started devoting myself almost full time to helping veterans buy homes. Okay, so you're in the right place.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. 3 things I'm obsessed with, just so you know, is comprehensive customer service. I think that if you can go and get a level of care from an Apple store, buying a $1,500 phone, which is crazy to even say, then you should get the same level of care at a minimum when you're getting ready to buy a $500,000 up to $1 million house. And you would be surprised the level of service out there with real estate agents is not that great. So I'm committed to giving you the best service humanly possible. Second is complete subject matter knowledge. You might find that I give you more information than you need, but I don't know what you need until you get the information. My whole concept here is I can take you by the hand and walk you across the dark room and promise you everything's going to be okay. Because I've been doing real estate for 12, 13 years. Or I could just flip on a light switch and you can see for yourself everything that's out there and you can run. I don't want to just hold your hand and you have to trust me. I want you to see things for yourself. I want you to understand so that you can be empowered to go do what you need to do. Not only buy one house, but if you want to buy 2, 3, 4 and build yourself a whole portfolio, I want to help you do that. Okay. And then the last thing is blue oceans of opportunity. What made me a really good investor, finding properties that were hidden gems, undervalued assets, or staying away from things that were overpriced that I knew were just fool's gold. I bring all that to you. So when we go out and look at houses, I'm going to be pointing out all these things and helping you consider things that you might not have considered otherwise so that you make a good value decision with your house. Okay?
Sounds good.
Perfect. I joined the Whistle Realty group. I worked with them for about 7 years and then recently broke off, and we started our own group here called Home Free Realty. And the whole thing with Home Free Realty is we want to give you that feeling that you're home free. You're almost there. right? Knock everything out and then just blast to the finish line. Okay.
Okay.
Got a small Tiger team here, all a bunch of military veterans. So all the people that are going to be helping us out, opening up those doors and pushing paperwork around and all those things that we need, we're all veterans. We know where you are. Most of us have been there with the home buying process, but we've all been there on this side of the table as real estate agents. So you're in good hands. We know where you're at, and we think that we're the best people to serve you. Okay, so now let's talk about timelines. Enough about me.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So when it comes to buying the house, okay, the thing to keep in mind is 30, 30, 30, right? It takes about 30 days to pre-qual for the house. You can do it in far less time than that, but I find on average, people take about 30 days. The lender, once you get the lender all the information that he needs, he or she, they can get you a pre-approval within 24 hours. The holdup usually is the consumer getting the lender all the stuff that they need, because they're going to ask for a handful of things. They're going to ask for pay stubs, they're going to ask for W-2s, they're going to ask for your tax returns, and then they're going to pull credit, right? If you're still waiting for your to file taxes for last year, or if you're still waiting for next week's pay stub, or you're having trouble like printing out your bank statements and stuff like that, those things take time. I'm here to help you. The lender's here to help you get that stuff done. Once they get it done, they can get you that pre-approval pretty quick. But just say 30 days, okay? Make it simple. Shopping, we usually can go out about 4 weekends, 30 days, and have a house that you like under contract. And the way it works is most people put new homes up for sale sometime during the week and have them open for the weekend. So we'll go out weekend after weekend, and usually within about 4 weekends, we'll land one you like, put in an offer, and get it accepted. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes shorter. I had one guy we shopped for 2 years. He was trying to find a needle in a haystack. It is what it is, right? But most people are just trying to find a good value house that fits all their needs, and that usually about 30 days. Then once we get the offer accepted, we enter that escrow process. That escrow process is almost always exactly 30 days. Sometimes it pushes out a little bit longer if we run into some complications. Sometimes we try to get it done in a shorter amount of time, but it usually comes out to about 30 days in the end. So expect to have keys in your hand 90 days from now. Does that fit our timelines pretty well?
That fits it.
Okay, perfect. All right, now I want to talk about expected costs, okay? This one throws people for a loop, because a lot of folks hear that, hey, VA loan, I don't have to pay any money, or the seller's going to pay all my costs and my fees and stuff like that. Have you heard these things?
I've heard that.
Okay, great. Have you ever heard of earnest money deposit or closing costs?
I've heard a little bit. Could you elaborate on this?
Happy to do that. Okay. An earnest money deposit, that's the first thing that we need to have at the ready. It's typically 1% of the purchase price of the house. So let's just say you're a consumer and I'm a seller, and you want to buy my house. You want me to take the house off the market and stop other people from seeing it. And we're going to enter into a contract. I'm hoping that you hold up your end of the bargain on that contract and do what you're supposed to do, and asking me to come off the market so other people don't see my house anymore. If you break that contract, there's got to be something that I can take as compensation for you not doing your part, other than just bad feelings, right? So the earnest money deposit is considered, it's like a collateral, right? It goes in, it's called consideration. It goes in with the contract. And if you break the contract, and it's very hard for you to break the contract, by the way, I'll explain that in a couple of minutes, then ideally that earnest money deposit would go to me as a seller, because you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. And the industry standard is 1%. However, there's no real set number. It can be $1 all the way up to the full purchase price of the house for the earnest money deposit, right? If we don't have the full 1%, sometimes we can actually come in a little bit lower, and that's okay. I just have to do a little dance with the seller if that's a situation. Like, for example, if we make really good money week over week, but we just don't have a lot of cash, that's fine. We can work with that, and I can talk to the agent. And the way it works is when we find a house we like and they accept the offer, that's the key, then we put the earnest money deposit in with the escrow company. Remember the bookie we were talking about a few minutes ago, the escrow officer? They're the ones that hold the money. That earnest money will stay with that escrow officer for the whole process of the escrow, and if we make it all the way to the finish line, it gets returned to you. It's your money. If we cancel through one of many approved methods to get out of the contract, you get that money back. But only at the very end, if you truly, I mean, you got to, like, you got to basically disappear, like, and run off to Mexico and not even tell me where you're at. That's the way you lose your earnest money deposits. It's very difficult, and I won't let you do it. All right, just long story short. But ideally, like, if you did lose it, it would go to them. Otherwise, that money comes back to you, and then you can use it toward your closing costs. Okay. Now the closing costs are 2, sometimes 3, but let's just say 2% of the purchase price of the house. Okay. So we're looking at, let's just say we're looking at a house for $500,000, 500,000. That means we would need to have at the ready about $10,000. I don't think we've covered this before, but do you have that in the bank at your disposal?
I do, yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, there are things that we can do as well. If you didn't have it, there are ways that we can get the seller to roll those into the purchase of the house, essentially finance that money. If we need to, we can do that. But it's great the fact that you have that, because that's a customary way to do it, is to just have that on the side, and you pay that at closing. That's what I call it, closing costs. Now, those closing costs are broken into kind of 2 categories, okay? The first category is going to be your fixed fees. This is paying the escrow company, the bookie, to do their job. You're going to be paying some upfront fees to the lender for a title insurance policy, some notary fees, and administrative paper pusher fees. Right. Long story short, on like $500,000 house, they're going to be somewhere between like $2,000 to $4,000. Right. The other side of it is the second half of your closing costs are going to be your prepaid items. This is a cushion, okay, that you're going to go ahead and build up for items that you're going to need for your mortgage, right? So we're talking prepaid property taxes. When you get ready to buy the house, the lender's going to want to see that you put in a certain amount of money up front to cover the property taxes on the house for like the first 6 months, right? Second thing is your insurance. They're going to need an insurance policy to get started, and they want 6 months of insurance on the house right away. That way it's covered for that first 6 months. Because they don't know you yet. You're just starting this mortgage out. If you decide to cut and run and go to Mexico again, they want to make sure that the tax man's not going to come repo the house, or if it burns down, that they're not going to lose the asset. Because the lender's kind of like your partner here, right? And then the rest is prepaid interest. So the lender's going to want to make sure they got their profit on the loan right up front. So all that's set for like the first 6 months. Depending on what time of year we buy the house, that changes a little bit. Don't sweat that detail too much. Just know that that money is essentially your money. That is paying toward your own loan kind of up front. So it's not like you're paying outside parties necessarily. They just want you to have that surplus right up front, okay? So really, you're only giving away that $2,000 to $4,000 for those fees, okay? Now, once we close on the house, that money will get paid out, and the VA loan is a 0 down loan, okay? So you won't need any down payment money for that process, okay? This chart right here that we see shows the 30-day period, and each one of these little squares that you see right here marks a contingency window period of time. We'll talk about that in a second. But you see here how we put the earnest money deposit in at the beginning, and then that goes all the way to the end, and then the 1% that you put down, you only need to bring an extra 1% at the end. 1 plus 1 equals 2. You pay that at the end, and now the house is yours.
Finish out those closing costs.
Exactly. Make sense?
It does.
Okay, perfect. And I want to bring that up. So we find a house, and I'm like, hey, you got your $5,000. You're like, what? What you talking about? Like, just want to make sure we're on the same page. Okay. A few other expected costs here for you is the home inspection and the appraisal. Okay. The home inspection is a third-party person. I have tons of referrals for home inspectors that I recommend. I deal with them all the time. But if you have someone that you know, like, and trust, a cousin, a friend, a referral, we'll use that person. Doesn't matter. They're going to do a one-time service for you. Okay. Once we get into escrow, their whole job is to go check that house out from the roof to the foundation, from wall to wall, front to back, side to side. They're going to be looking at everything from the plumbing to the electrical to the roof to the foundation. They want to make sure that the shrubbery's not rubbing up against the side of the house. They're going to look at the water heater and make sure it's got an expansion tank and a release valve and this extra PVC line that drains the water away from the house. All this crazy stuff that you and I would never think of, but they know matters. They're going to do that inspection for you. They're going to print out this nice big report so you know exactly what you're dealing with the house. Now, the home inspector is not a contractor. All right, he's not going to do any of that. He's not going to quote how much it's going to cost to fix those things. That's the homework that you and I will have to do. But if we do have a house and it's pretty clean and the inspection report comes back with minimal hits, it never comes back with zero. Like even a brand new house doesn't come back with 0 hits. But it comes back with minimal hits. Cool. You pay it's anywhere between $300 to $700 for that, and it depends on who you hire, and it also depends on how big the house is. For example, if you're talking about a house that's like 5,000 square feet, he's going to be there all day. He's going to charge you a whole lot more. Or if it's on a cliffside or something and he's got to rappel down with a rope to see the outside of the house, he's going to charge you more. There's also other things that you might want to add on too, like sewer inspection, pool inspection, or other weird tests, like if you wanted to get like an asbestos test or something wild. Like we never do those, but if something came up and you wanted to get those packaged in, each one of those costs a little bit more money. Now, what I want to drive home here is this is an expense that you pay for peace of mind. If the inspector comes back and says, hey man, this thing's a dumpster fire, you should walk away, cool, you just paid $700 so you could save yourself millions in trouble, right? Or he's going to come back and say, man, this is a really great house, there's no hits. You're going to be like, oh, I wasted $700. No, you didn't. You just confirmed with $700 that this is a really good house, peace of mind.
Not getting into a hole.
Yeah. Now, we can, at that point, when the home inspector does his job, we can walk away from this puppy free and clear. You take your earnest money deposit and we go find another house. You won't get the $700 back because the guy did the job, right? Guy or gal did the job. And that's the same with the appraisal. That's the next fee that you got to work on. The appraisals, somewhere between, it's $400 to $800. The VA appraisal is usually right around $800 these days. The appraisal is also a one-time thing, okay? It's an out-of-pocket expense. It's due at the time that the appraisal is done. But most lenders, because they're the ones that are ordering the appraisal for you, they're usually nice guys and they go ahead and take care of it and then just add it to your closing costs at the end so you don't have to scratch that extra check. But you still owe the money for the job.
Okay? Gotcha.
Now, if the appraiser goes out and the house comes in lower than what you offered for the house and we decide like, hey, we can't move forward and buy this, it is what it is. We have to walk away from the house, more or less. But that appraiser, he did his job. We still have to pay that guy. It's okay. Anytime you yawn, I know it's a lot of learning that's happening, so I don't take it as a sign of disrespect. Okay. So when we look at this escrow window, we've got our earnest money deposit that's due at the beginning. Then we've got home inspection fee, and then the appraisal fee that happens kind of in the middle. And then at the very end, we've got our closing costs. Cool.
Gotcha. Got
a good grasp on that?
I do. How does the VA inspection differ from a normal one?
The VA does not inspect homes. The only inspection that is done appertaining to the VA is through the appraiser, right? So when an appraiser goes out to the house, they have what's called MPRs, minimum property requirements. There's a whole handbook and a checklist that they use, and they use that as a guide. And these are some pretty basic things that they look for. Can't have any broken glass. Can't have any chipped and peeling paint. If there are security bars over the windows, like certain neighborhoods, we have those. Homes that were built like back in the 50s and the 60s, they have to have quick releases on them so that they can come off, and the quick releases have to work. Can't have obvious, like a big hole in the roof. It can't have obvious structural or foundation issues or anything written into the listing that says, hey, it has foundation issues, stuff like that. If something like that comes up, it gets called out on the appraisal, and the appraiser will say this has to be fixed prior to funding or prior to closing, or sometimes they say this needs to be fixed, but it can be fixed after close, right? In which case it's like, hey, Scout's honor. But that's when it gets called out, and then we talk with the seller about getting those repairs. We don't own the house yet. We can't do it. So we have to talk to the seller and see if they're willing to do those repairs for us. Most of the time, if it's super minor, they have no problem doing it. Like, putting on a new coat of paint because the paint's peeling off, or replacing a window. We've even had people go in and just board up a window because it would have taken 3 or 4 weeks to get a new pane of glass. So they're like, hey, we just boarded it up and then we'll give you a credit so you can buy the glass when it comes in a few weeks or whatever. That makes sense?
It does. Thanks for clarifying.
Absolutely. All right. So something I want you to see here as well is we've got these 4 blocks, right? We've got the inspection block, the appraisal block, the loan block, and then at the very end we got our home free block, okay? Each one of these marks a contingency window, all right? And each one of those contingencies, I want you to think about those as get out of jail free moments, okay? If the inspection doesn't go well, you get out of jail free. You take your earnest money deposit, you go home. If the appraisal comes in short and it doesn't work out, cool. We don't sign that off. You take your earnest money deposit, we go home. If for some reason the loan doesn't work out after that, they come up and they're like, hey, we found some stuff on your credit that is going to disqualify you for the loan. It happens rarely, but it happens. Or if you decide that you wanted to go ahead and advance a credit card to buy furniture in the middle of escrow, and then the lender's like, hey, you don't qualify for the house anymore because you took out this $12,000 loan for furniture. That's happened before. Then you get disqualified, right? But if that happens and you haven't signed off that card yet, you still get to take your earnest money deposit and go home. It's only after you sign off all three of these and you close all three of these doors that you're in this final home free window. If we're in that home free window in that last week or two before closing, and you've signed everything else off, and then you decide you don't want the house, you're going to have to forfeit your earnest money deposit. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to go hat in hand to the seller and be like, pretty please, let us get our money back. Please don't take our money. But they have all the rights in the world to keep that money if that does happen. That makes sense?
It does.
Okay. The reason I bring this up is I want you to feel really comfortable when we go out shopping for houses to put in offers on homes and know that you're going to have all this time after it gets accepted to make sure that you're happy and to sleep on it and to feel good about it and to thoroughly inspect this property and make sure that your loan is the way that you want it before you close. I don't want you to have all that fear and doubt and hesitation before putting in the offer only to watch someone else buy the house and then you're kicking yourself forever afterwards. We have the whole escrow process for all that peace of mind. Okay? Great.
Sounds good.
All right. Some other payments, because we're VA, that you need to be aware of. This is strictly with the VA loan, is you have your VA funding fee. Right? The VA funding fee, the percentage of it has changed a lot over the years, but right now it's actually 2.15%, right, for an active duty person who's buying their first house, right? So remind me again, are we active duty or are we separated?
We're active duty right
All right, perfect. And you've never bought a house before?
now.
Great. So the 2.15% right there is basically a surcharge. So we say we spend $500,000 on this house. What the VA is going to do is they're going to write a loan for not only the $500,000, but they're going to kick on their extra little funding fee of 2.15%. It comes out to like $11,000 or $12,000, something like that. So you're going to get a total loan amount of $512,000, right? And you're going to pay that back over 30 years, which is what most people do. You have the option as well that you can just hand the VA that $12,000, like at closing, you can just go ahead and pay them with that. But if you're only going to live in the house 8 years, I'd rather you only pay 8 years, 8 years of that funding fee rather than to pay the whole thing right up front. You know what I'm saying? So you end up paying a lot less if you just finance it into the house. Make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If you are on your second house or more, that funding fee jumps up to 3.6%. That will be for your second, third, fourth, fifth house, and from that point forward. Like all the houses you buy will be at that new 3.6% up until the day that you decide to get out. Are you going to be getting out anytime soon?
I will be getting out within the next year. Yeah.
Within the next year? Cool. If you were to buy the house after you get out and get your VA disability rating, let's just say it's 10% or more. It's really zero, but there's like other factors. But if you're not getting a 10% disability, you're not even trying, right? So like if you just claim tinnitus, you'll get 10%. Okay. So 10% or more, then you have no funding fee on any house that you buy with the VA loan from that point forward for the rest of your days. Now, if you already own a home, like say we're going to buy a house right now, and then you get out a year from now, well, you're still going to have to pay that funding fee because that was a deal that you made with the man when you bought the house. If you refinance the home after you're out, then that funding fee drops off. Pro tip. Or if you buy a new house from that point forward. But if you just keep that loan, you're going to keep paying toward that funding fee. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, great. Now I want to talk about down payments. But before I get into the down payment stuff, Do you need to take a break, shake it out, call your mom and say, I made a huge mistake sitting down with this freaking guy?
I'm all good. Let's push through it.
Okay, great. So I want to talk down payments here because for you to really understand the benefit of the VA loan, it's good to see how it contrasts against other loan packages that are out there, okay? So your gold standard loan package is a 20% down loan, right? That's your bread and butter across the board. That's what lenders want. And I'll explain that in a minute. Then from there, you've got loans that are designed to help consumers, people who just want to buy a house to live in, that we're all kind of struggling because these home prices are crazy high, right? They've been for a long time. So we have programs out there to give people lower than 20% down loan payments, or lower than 20% down loan types, to kind of inspire them to get going and get into a house sooner than later, right? So one of those is you can do a conventional loan for less than 20% down, but then they charge some extra fees. You can do an FHA loan. An FHA loan is usually comes with lower interest rates and things like that. And it's also got a couple of the fees that are associated with it. We'll get to that in a minute, but it goes down as low as 3.5%. And then you've got your VA loan, which is 0% down, meaning you can finance the full $500,000 for that house without putting any money down. Now, something you need to keep in mind as well is when it comes to real estate commissions, right? We're going to go over that form in just a minute. When we talk about our agency agreement, the representation agreement, there's going to be a line item on there for the buyer's agent commission. That's how I get paid. What I want you to understand about this is I'm going to put in a certain percentage that I am asking for to get paid in representing you, helping you find the house, doing the consultation, getting you into those houses, the access, and then going all the way through the roller coaster of the transaction to get you to the finish line, right? That's how I get paid. When we go and put in an offer on a house, we're going to be requesting that the seller compensate you for that commission, as is the standard practice across California. Okay? Mm-hmm. So even though we have a dollar figure on there, say it's 2.5% or 3%, we're going to be pushing that off to the seller and asking them to pay that for us, so that's not going to be coming out of your pocket. If something happens and the seller wants to push back against that number, we'll renegotiate those things. But for right now, for simplicity purposes, I want you to just take that out of your mind and don't worry about paying a buyer's commission, but know that it's going to be on that form. Okay?
Got it.
All right. So looking at our home loans here, the gold standard for a $500,000 house is 20% down, meaning the bank wants you to put $100,000 of your own money into this asset, the house. They only want to loan you $400,000 for that house, right? Why would they want to do that? This is why. The house is worth $500,000 before you moved into it, before you started to tear it up, before you stopped making payments on it and built up tax liens, before they had to hire attorneys to get you out of it, before they had to auction it off and only get 80 cents on the dollar because they had to auction it off to the public. The bank does not want to have to try to get $500,000 out of that house, knowing that they're going to have all these fees involved. For them, if they only give you $400,000, that means they only have to recoup $400,000, and they're very confident that if they have to auction it off after all these things, that they're going to get that money. On this side, we've got the VA loan. Now, the VA is kind of like your cosigner, okay? You're going to get a loan for this thing, but the bank is still going to get not just 20%, but they're going to get guaranteed for 25% of the value of that house. So if all these things happen and you don't make payments and you beat the house up and they got to get attorneys to get it back and all these things, Uncle Sam is going to step in and pay that lender up to 25% of the value of that house to make them whole, and then you're going to have to square it up with Uncle Sam later. That's why banks love VA loans, because they're not just giving the loan to you, they're giving the loan to the government. And nobody pays out money like the government does, let's be honest. So in that case, because the VA is guaranteeing that money, now you can get a full mortgage for $500,000. Now keep in mind, your mortgage at $500,000, what you have to monthly pay, is going to be higher than the guy next to you who bought a $500,000 house but put 20% down, because his total mortgage is only $400,000. That makes sense?
It does.
The reason I bring that up is I don't want you to get sticker shock when you look at how much the monthly cost is. You're like, oh God, that's so high. I thought this VA loan was so good. That's a trade-off. If you want to wait until you've saved up $100,000 and then go buy a house, you can do that. But probably by the time you do that, the cost of houses will have doubled, right? How long do you think it'll take you to save $100,000?
Definitely more than 5 years.
Yeah, take a long time, right? Home prices 5 years from now, I don't even want to think about it. I want to think about it when you own the house already and you're looking at your equity statement and feeling really good about it, as opposed to being in the same chair 5 years from now thinking, geez, I missed the train, right? So that's a benefit of the VA. Now, if you were doing one of those other loan types, right? Again, the whole reason I'm telling you this is so you can appreciate how good the VA is. If you took one of those other loans that were less than 20% down, you'd be paying mortgage insurance, right? So that 20% down that you didn't pay, like say you got one for like 3.5% down, FHA loan, you'd be paying mortgage insurance on that 20% down. So the way that works is, it's weird. The bank is still going to get their cushion for that 20%, but it's going to come from an insurance company now instead of from your own cash. And you got to pay that insurance company every month with your mortgage interest or mortgage insurance. So now your low down payment loan just went up by $300-400 a month just so you can cover that. But that VA is saving you that $300-400 a month by not worrying about it. That's the benefit of the VA. Okay. And then also with the FHA loan, you have what's called MIP, mortgage insurance premium. It's up front. It's like an extra closing cost on that insurance policy. Again, VA loan, forget about it. You don't have to worry about that. It's pretty great, right?
It is.
Yeah. All right. Now I want to get into what's actually in your mortgage, okay? This is going to get a little numbers based here, okay? But the importance with this is when we're out looking for homes and you're thinking whether you can afford this or not, these are the factors that are going to tell us how much that monthly payment's going to be. And I'm going to run those calculations with you as we look at each one of these houses. We go look at 123 Main Street and you're like, wow, I really like this one. With everything considered, Matt, how much do you think it's going to cost a month? I'll break out my handy dandy calculator. I'm going to look at your PI, TI, and I'm going to bring, and if there's an HOA, I'm going to add that in there and I'm going to show you, hey, Bill, this is how much it's going to cost you per month on this house based on all these factors. So these are all the things that we're looking at. Do you look at any like mortgage calculators on your own online?
I have not, no.
Okay. If you go to like say Zillow or Redfin or something like that, a lot of times they have these convenience calculators around there and they're like, hey, your monthly payment's only going to be this much money. Two things. Well, three things. First thing, they're lying. The reason they're lying is because those calculators are like pre-defaulted in a lot of cases to a 20% down loan. You have to go in there and manually change it to 0 down because you're doing VA. So that's going to make that number go way up. And also in a lot of cases, not all of them, but a lot of cases, they don't mention the property taxes and the home insurance costs on there, right? So if they don't mention the property taxes and the home insurance costs, that's easily like a third of your mortgage payment. You'd be really misled thinking you can buy this $1 million house for $2,500 a month, and it's just not true. It'd be pretty heartbreaking to find out, right?
It would, yeah.
Yeah, after you put in an offer. Okay. So principal and interest, that's going to be the thing you see on those calculators. That's the money that you're paying back to the loan, just like with a car or a credit card, right? You have cars and credit cards?
I do.
Right. So you see those statements all the time, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So it's nothing new to you. The only thing that's different is the taxes and insurance. Now, the way that it works with this payment, okay, anytime you buy a house, even if you bought a house cash, you still got to pay property taxes every year on that house, at least in the state that we're in, okay? Up until California decides that veterans get a pass and get, zero cost, state property taxes, that's where we're at. And it's usually about 1.2% of the purchase price of the house, okay, every year. And the way it works is when you have the VA loan, the VA takes a projection of what that number is based on how much you paid for the house, and they go ahead and they collect that 1.2% from you. And they pay it out at the end of the year on your behalf. All you do is make a small deposit toward that total, 1/12 of it every month, prorated amount of it every month. And at the end of the year, they take that money and pay it for you. Otherwise, you would have to make your monthly payments and then also be thinking, oh, I need to also save up for this property tax at the end of the year, we're not doing that. They know we're not doing that. So they go ahead and add that in. They do the same thing with home insurance. So your home insurance is going to be, let's say it's $500 for the year. They're going to take a small amount every month, like $80 a month or whatever it is, up until they get their full amount. And then at the end of the year, they'll pay that out on your behalf. So it's all wrapped into the payment that you give to the bank every month. Okay?
Sounds good.
Something else you need to know is in the future, you might do this instead of taking an itemized deduction. If you do or instead of taking a standard deduction, if you take an itemized deduction, mortgage interest and property taxes are tax deductible. And we can talk about that later, but if you choose to do that, that can also save you even more money in total from what you pay on your mortgage payment relative to, what you pay for rent. Right? Okay. We have HOA and Melrose as well. These catch a lot of people by surprise. Are you familiar with either one of those?
I am.
Okay, great. So the HOA, when we get to an HOA property that you like, one of the things that I'm going to do is analyze what that HOA cost is every month. And inside that homeowners association, there's going to be a whole list of benefits that they give us. What I want to do is have a conversation with you house by house that we look at and make sure that that HOA payment that you make every month is actually going to go somewhere for you, get you things that you want. If we go to a complex and it gives you no benefits and costs $500 a month, and maybe their financial, their savings at the homeowners association is not so good, right? And they're not spending that money well, maybe we don't buy a house there because that HOA could be a real problem for us. But if we go to a place that's new construction and you get a gym and a swimming pool and tennis court and all these other things, and it's only like $100 a month, that's a great deal. So we just want to make sure we're getting the right bang for the buck. Make sense?
It does.
Great. Now Melrose, this is going back to the new construction thing. This is also a super sneaky tax that hits a lot of people. Have you been looking at new construction houses online at all?
I have not.
Okay. Well, if you do, you might notice that the new construction home prices look really appetizing. Like, man, that's a brand new house and it's only X dollars. Problem is, a lot of those have this extra tax on it, right? And I can see what that is because it's listed in the remarks on the bottom of the listing. And we have our 1% property tax that all the houses have. But when it comes to the Melrose, that's an extra property tax for that new construction to front load schools, police departments, roads, fire hydrants, and all that kind of stuff, all the infrastructure for that new place. So, I mean, if you look at where we're at right now, all this has been built. Right, they've already taken all the money they need for the PD, the fire department, the roads, the bus stops, and all that stuff. But if we're looking at new construction that's in a new part of town, they have to build all that stuff out, and they got to bring it to where that new place is. That costs money. They recap that with that Melrose tax. It's usually a 20 to 30 year repayment on it, and then after that 20 to 30 year period, it falls off, and then your monthly payment gets a whole lot better from that point forward. But 30 years is also a long time.
Something to consider.
Yeah. I don't want you to get taken by surprise with that. If you're like, hey, how much is this new construction house? And then I show you the monthly and you're like, holy crap, that's so high. That's why. Okay. A lot of potholes and pitfalls like waiting for us out there so far, right?
There are, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of obstacles to look out for. Okay. We talked about this before. We're going to be moving over and we're going to be talking to the lender about getting pre-approved for a home loan. So one of the things that I want to preface here is when you get ready to talk to the lender about that, I want you to have an understanding of what they're going to be looking at when they do the pre-approval for you. And I also want to kind of set some expectations about what your monthly payment will be. When the lender looks at your profile, they're considering what's called your debt to income ratio. Debt is how much money you owe. That's not expenses. It's not like your light bill or even your cell phone bill. They're concerned about repayments on loans like cars and credit cards, money that you would owe even if you were laid up in a hospital, in a coma. They're still going to come for that money. Those are real debts that they care about. And then they're going to put that on the top and they're going to put your income on the bottom, how much money you make every month. And they want to make sure that you're currently not spending the entire amount of money that you make every month already on other stuff. Because if say you could hike with 200 pounds and you're already hiking with 180 pounds, someone can only put 20 more pounds on your back before you're tapped right? So if we go to the bank and we're like, hey, I'm spending 80% of my income on my cars and credit cards, but I also want to buy $1 million house, the bank's going to look at that and say, you don't have the room. You don't make enough money to carry all that load. We're not going to do it. Except it's not 100%. They want to actually keep you below 40%. As far as they're concerned, that's where the sweet spot is. Okay. Now put this little chart together to kind of lay this out for us. So when it comes to your debts, the way to look at it is we're going to put all our debts on this side, and then we're going to put our income on this side. And then whatever that mortgage payment comes out to be, whatever that magic number is, we want everything over here on this side to only be 40 to a max of 65% of your total income. So I just did a little cheat sheet down here. So say we've got $1,000 in car loans and credit cards, and we make $10,000 a month. Well, doing some quick math, that means that the bank can give us an extra $3,000, and that puts us at 40% debt to income. See how we got there?
I do.
Okay. That's exactly what the bank is going to be doing. So the best thing to do is to get prepared with this now. So do you have car loans or credit cards right now?
I do have a car loan, yeah.
How much is your car loan a month?
About $500.
$500 for the car loan. Cool. Credit cards?
Intermittently used. So.
Okay, so basically you keep a zero balance.
Yep.
All right. Do you have alimony, child support, any other government fixed payments you need to make, student loans or anything like that? Cool. So just $500 a month. And then how much money are you making right now a month?
7,500.
7,500. Great. So by this calculator, I mean, you could do several $1,000s worth of mortgage payments. And what we need to do is we take that, let's just say it was $3,000. We plug this into a mortgage calculator with whatever interest rate the lender gives us, and we can work that backwards, and that'll tell us a $3,000 payment equals a $500,000 house, or a $600,000 or a $700,000 house. And we got to ask ourselves, if that $3,000 a month ultimately means a $600,000 house, does that fit with what we're trying to buy? Yeah, okay, cool. We're looking at a $600,000 house. That lines up. But if we're looking to buy $1 million house, we're like, wait a second, we're way off. What can we do, right? So in that case, what happens if we don't make enough money is we got to actually go to the bank, or we got to go in and we've got to fix our situation, right? So these are the things that they're looking at. The lender cares about your FICO score, right? They want to see, the VA doesn't care about your credit score at all. There's zero guidelines from the VA for credit. But the lender has credit requirements. So lender A, lender B, and lender C are going to have different credit requirements. So if the lender says, hey, you need to be at a 620 or 640 or whatever it is, then we need to meet that minimum. The higher up you go, the better interest rate they give you. So if you have like an 800 credit score, you're going to get a better interest rate walking in than most other people are. Also assets. If you have cash in the bank, like a TSP or a savings account or a trust fund set up, do you have any of those going?
I got a TSP going, yeah.
How much do you have in there?
I want to say probably like 30,000.
Like 30 grand? Hey, way to go. How long you been in?
8 years.
8 years, 30 grand. You're doing great. You should be really proud of yourself. What's cool about that is you don't even have to spend that money, but if the bank sees that you have that money, they're going to consider you a good borrower. Because if something happens and you come to a point that you can't make your mortgage payment, they know that you can reach into your own piggy bank and fix it. The best person to lend money to is someone who doesn't need the loan. Well, you need the loan, but you've got $30,000 to your name. That's awesome. So that alone can help you possibly even qualify for more home purchase, right? So going back to this, that 40 to 60%, let's just say, right, that you only got to, they only wanted to give you $3,000, but you're like, hey, bank, I need a bigger house. I got a bunch of kids. I'm good for it. What can you do for me? Well, the bank, they would look at that and say, all right, well, let's analyze a few things to see if you're worth it. If you're worth it, we might even go out on a limb for you. If if you have these other things that are going for you, we might actually push that number out to 65%, meaning we, instead of giving you just $3,000 a month for your house, we give you $5,500 a month for your house. Then we put that in the mortgage calculator, and that's your $1 million house right there. Bingo, that's what we need. And so that's when they would look at these things. They'd look at your credit, they'd look at your assets, make sure you're happy there. And then if those two things don't come in and they're like, well, your credit and your assets are good, not great, there's nothing we can do there, then it comes down to what you can fix, which is either make more money, which I think we all want to do that, or pay down some of the debt. So with your car, how many more months of payments do you have on that?
Ooh, I'd say about 2 years.
2 years worth of payments. What you could do, since you have your TSP money, let's just say we were $500 short of what we wanted per month for the house. You could take your TSP money, pay off the remaining balance of that car. That drops you, or that opens up that extra $500 a month that the bank can now give you, and that might be the thing you need to get to the house that you want. But if you had 7 years of payments left on that car and you owed like 70 grand, it would probably be a pretty terrible idea, right? Yeah. So in your case, I think you're pretty good because you make a decent amount of money and you have low debts to pay off. But I want to go over this real quick too, just so you have an idea of it. Not all debt should be paid off, okay? And I want you to share this with the people you work with. There's other people in your shop and in your unit that are thinking about buying homes and stuff, right? You have these conversations?
We do.
Yeah. You probably heard somebody say, oh, I want to pay off all my debt before I get ready to buy a house, right? It's not something that's unheard of, right?
No.
Okay. That is not always good advice, all right? Now, I want you to be an ambassador here and make sure that you share the good word. But some debts should be paid off before you buy the house, because what your monthly payment is versus how much you owe on it could be really upside down. For example, take this car loan here. Say this car loan, you owe $7,000 total for that car. It's just a little Kia or something. You got $150 a month. If I were to put that $7,000 into a mortgage calculator, that's $30,000 worth of home value that you would unlock, right? Just by paying that off. But that's $7,000 to get you $30,000. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you were $30,000 short of what your goal was, like, you know, they were like, hey, we got you at 470, but we can't get you to 5. And you're like, wait a second, I could pay off my car. I could get there, right? Because that's what that $150 a month would ultimately mean with a mortgage. Take this credit card, for example. It's a $10,000 balance, but it's double the monthly payment, right? Well, if you took care of that $300 a month, now that opens up $60,000 worth of buying power. So if you take 10 grand out of your TSP, now you can buy an extra $60,000 worth of house. Maybe that's what you need. And then this one here, this is the best option. Say you've got only $1,500 left to pay on this car loan, and let's just say it's a Tesla or something. You got a $600 payment on it. Yours is a $500. This one's $600. That $600 could be $120,000 worth of mortgage, and you could pay it off for $1,500. I think you should definitely do that. That's the kind of payment that you want to pay off. You give $1,500 and you get $120,000 worth of buying power. That's a no-brainer.
Because they go off of the monthly payment, not what the total is owed.
Bingo.
Gotcha.
That's what makes the difference. So flip that around on its head. Say we got this credit card down here. It's a $20,000 payoff. That's a lot to pay off, but it's only $100 a month. Like, good luck finding a credit card like that. But still, only $100 a month. Well, that $100 a month only gets you $20,000 worth of mortgage. So you're going to pay 20 grand to get 20 grand. That's dumb.
Because you're only knocking off $100 payment.
Yeah. I have so many people that wait to go buy a house to pay off that 20 grand to save themselves 20 grand. And I'm like, what are you doing? We need to get to work here, guys. Don't touch that. But they're, you know, they don't know any better. So I want you to understand that difference, not just for you, but for everybody you know. And then this last one down here would be like an uncle loan. You could even say, like in some cases, like a student loan. If you could defer it, awesome. But otherwise, like say you got a $40,000 loan from your uncle and he only wants $150 a month. Well, that's only $30,000 worth of mortgage, and that's less than the total balance of it.
40 grand off it.
Yeah, that's a dumb thing to pay off, so we don't want to touch that. All right, I want to bring this all full circle, okay? What you're seeing here is a glimpse into how it works when we're having the conversations with the lender about getting you the amount of money that you want to spend on the house. These conversations are best had with myself and with the lender before you start doing all these crazy things. So it's really important that we get to this consultation earlier, sooner than later. So if there's somebody that you know that's out there and they're like hesitant to talk to a professional, use this as an example. Say, no, you need to talk to them sooner than later because you might be preparing yourself improperly for the process. Luckily, you're right on time because we've got 90 days out ahead of us. You're in good shape. We're ready to go. Okay. You need a break before we talk about interest rates?
Let's keep going.
All right, I love it. A man after my own heart. The reason this matters is because when the interest rates change, your monthly payment changes. And that interest rate, we can actually move that around, okay? But I want you to know how much that can move around. I get a lot of people, they come in and they're like, oh, well, I don't want to buy a house if I can't get so-and-so interest rate. And I would say, well, why? What does it matter? Oh, because payments will be too high. I'm like, by how much? A lot. What's a lot? I don't know. Okay. Well, if we don't know, let's find out, right? So, and we can update this later, but let's just say we were back in the 3% interest rate days, right? You get a $500,000 house. Say you got property taxes of 520, home insurance of $100. That monthly payment is going to be $27.29 a month for that interest rate. But if we were to drop you a quarter point, that takes $67 off your monthly payment. Well, let's just say you wanted 3%, but they only offered you 3.25. That means your monthly payment goes up by $67 a month. Is that going to be a deal breaker for you? $66 a month if you can't get that?
No.
No, not for the right house, right?
No,
right.
Of course not.
So when we talk to lending, we want to know, hey, like how much is this moving things around? And then we can decide if we want to do a rate buy down or if we want to get some credits back from the lender. This is where we get to play around. Now, a lot of agents, they're not even going to talk about this stuff with you. They're not even going to touch any of it. They're going to be like, oh, go talk to your lender and get a rate you like. You need to have a good understanding of how this stuff works before you walk in there. That way you can have a decent conversation with your lender and ask them about getting the number that you need. Whatever rate that you qualify for, off the cuff with no changes and no modifications, we're going to call your par rate. So you might go around and talk to a couple of lenders and one say, oh, well, we'll give you 3%, or in today's market, we'll give you 6% par rate. And you'd be like, all right, cool. Well, one guy promised me 6 and one guy promised me 6.5. One guy promised me 5.5. You'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to choose the 5.5 guy. Hold on. Is he giving you 5.5 par rate, or is he giving you 5.5 with a buy down? A lot of people back in the day, this would happen a lot. And this will happen again once we get back to the high or the low interest rate environment when things pick up a lot. When it's a refinance world, lenders will be sending out all these papers, all these advertisements, and all these advertisements will say, hey, we can get you to a 4.5% rate or 4.75 or 5% rate. Just pick us. And they're like, oh, yay. But what they don't know is that the lender is charging them a ton of money on their closing costs, extra closing cost money, so that they can afford to give them that low rate. But they don't tell them about it until they get to the closing table. It's so grimy, but it happens all the time. So when you talk to a lender, you say, all right, what rate can you get me, and how much is it going to cost me to get that? And you want to hear what the par rate is. Now, different lenders will offer different things. So let's just say, talk to lender A, and you're like, hey, man, I want to go down a quarter point from what you offered me. How much would you charge me to go down a quarter point? And they say, oh, well, if you want to drop your interest rate, you want to do a buy down, then give us $1,500 and we'll drop you a quarter point. And you say, all right, a quarter point, that's $67 a month. That's not so bad. I pay you $1,500. You save me $66 a month. Like, that pays itself off in 2 years. That's not too bad. I plan to be in the house for a while. It might be what you need. Or you might have to be under a certain monthly payment amount to qualify. And the lender will say, hey, I can pre-qualify you for this much, but it's going to cost you a little extra on your closing costs, right? Because they have to buy down that rate so you can afford the monthly payment. But then you say, hey, well, that worked out great. Let's go down a half a point. How much is that going to do for me? And they're like, well, a half a point is going to cost you $7,500. And you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money out of pocket. And that's only going to take you a half a point. So what's that, like $130 a month? It's like, wait a second, I'm going to pay you $7,500 up front. You're going to save me $130 a month. That'll take like 14 years to pay off. That's a terrible idea. That's what we call a wall, right? Once you hit a wall at 75, you don't want that. This one's pretty good. That one's terrible. Then it goes the other way too. What if we need money for closing costs and the seller can't help us out with financing that money and we have to come up with the money for closing costs and we don't have it? That's when a lender comes in. You say, hey, lender, I'm like $5,000 short of my closing costs. What can you do for me? They say, well, we can get you most of the way there if we raise your interest rate a little bit more monthly payment, but we can give you a rebate of $4,200, you borrow $800 from your mom and you're good to go, right? And you're like, all right, that sounds pretty good. Well, what else can you do for me? What if you go up another quarter point? And they're like, well, not so good on that one. We can only give you $4,800 if we go up, a half a point. And you're like, you hit a wall again. You're like, it's not so great. And usually this happens. The further you get away from par, the less appetizing it is, right? Lender A to lender B will offer a different menu for you, right? So if you deal with a mortgage broker knows all this, and they're going to do all that analyzing for you. Otherwise, you got to talk to lender A, lender B, and lender C with the exact same loan option on the exact same day, and sometimes even at the same time of day, to get an accurate comparison. But each one of them has a different menu. These are the levers. You can pay money, get a lower interest rate, or you can opt for a higher rate and get money back. Make sense?
It does.
Cool. This is really going to matter when it comes time to put in that offer and wheel and deal to get you that house that you want, right? Remember what we talked about before. Representation is really important. It's not just who can show you the house, it's who can actually get you the house and get you all the way through escrow so you get the keys at the end. Make sense?
It does.
Cool. So the different type of lenders that are out there that we're going to be talking about are direct lenders and mortgage brokers, which are the two best. And then you got banks and credit unions, which are the two worst. Banks and credit unions don't specialize in mortgages. They have a mortgage department, and from personal experience, most of them are pretty atrocious. Across the industry, all agents, we all know. I gotta grab my charger real quick. So. Yeah, I meant to charge this up earlier and I forgot about it. Or plug it in earlier. Like a glove. I love my computer.
Just enough.
That's all we need.
You have to let me know when I want me to put that new SSD in there.
Yeah, right? All right. So when it comes to banks and credit unions, they have mortgage department, and everybody knows that they're awful, right? A lot of people want to use them because, I already bank with them. It'll be super convenient, stuff like that. Or, they might offer me a good rate, and that's probably true. But banks and credit unions are very slow, and they're really problematic with escrows because the people that they hire for those departments don't actually get a lot of business, and a lot of them are like really poorly qualified. I'll just say it like from personal experience and from industry experience. Also, listing agents know this as well. So if they've got a choice between person A and person B, person A is using a direct lender or mortgage broker, person B is using a bank or credit union, they're going to bank on the direct lender or the mortgage broker. Direct lenders and mortgage brokers only sell mortgages. If they don't close mortgages, they don't eat that month. They are committed to the outcome of those. And they also don't have big storefronts. Mortgage brokers and direct lenders usually are not brick and mortar locations. They don't have a walk-in. They don't have an ATM. They don't have tellers and stuff like that. So they need actual service and word of mouth in order to continue to do business. Banks and credit unions, they're your local walk-up places, right? So it's a whole different value proposition for those guys, and it's a different service outcome for you. Also, because direct lenders and mortgage brokers only do mortgages, their rates are always more competitive than banks or credit unions. Unless you're a very long-time bank or a long-time customer with a bank and they happen to be running a really good special, mortgage brokers and direct lenders are going to beat them 9 times out of 10. And if they can't, they'll, in a lot of cases, they'll price match to beat them just because they want the business. So the people that I'm going to encourage you to talk to are direct lenders, mortgage brokers. A direct lender works for a loan company, and they sell that company's loan products. A mortgage broker is someone who's licensed to represent a multitude of direct lenders and even some banks, and they can plug you into any one of those banks, whoever's offering the best thing. The reason I like mortgage brokers is because they can shop across that whole span of different lenders and get you the best rate for the loan type and for your credit profile and for your loan amount and everything that fits you. So they do all the work to get you the best deal that's out there. So you don't have to go talk to 5 different mortgage brokers. You pick a mortgage broker that you like and you trust, that works well with you on a personal level, gives you the service that you want, and they'll go get you a great deal. When it comes to the VA loan, like we talked about before, it's a VA loan guarantee. So the loan is not coming from the VA. It's coming from the lender. but it conforms to the VA's guidelines, which means it has to have certain criteria, and that's what they're going to build the loan up to. Any qualified lender can do it. Most banks, most credit unions, and almost all mortgage brokers and direct lenders can do it. There's only a handful of banks that really can't write VA loans, and you wouldn't be going to them anyway. They'll be in some small towns. The VA essentially is just co-signing this loan for you, and that's where your entitlement comes in. And they're guaranteeing that 25%. That guarantee is what's called your entitlement. So you can use the full entitlement on a house or just a partial amount of the entitlement on a house, and we'll talk about that next. Something you need to keep in mind, all right? We're looking at detached single-family homes and some townhomes, right?
Yes.
Great. Either one of those is going to be easily qualified for a VA loan. But have you thought about buying a mobile home?
I have.
Okay. Or a duplex or a triplex?
I have.
Yeah, they crossed your mind, right?
Mhm.
With certain mobile homes, as long as they're manufactured on a permanent foundation, you could get a VA loan on that. Not a mobile home in a mobile home park. That's a whole different thing. But a modular home that gets built on a foundation, you can do that. There's even loan programs out there to help you build a house. Wouldn't recommend that in your situation, but the VA does have a home building loan option that they can give you too. It's pretty cool. Duplexes, triplexes, and quads, anything that's 4 homes on a lot and below, the VA can back you on that. Pretty cool, right?
It is.
Now, when it comes to condos and townhomes, what you need to keep in mind is those have to be on the approved VA list. Okay, so you might send me some properties that, hey, Matt, I really like this townhome. Let's go see it. And I say, hey, Bill, we can't see that one because it's not on the list. What that means is maybe too many investors own those properties. Like say there's 100 homes there and 50 are owned by investors. Well, the VA doesn't like that because if the market turns south and the investors all dump their properties because they're just investments, then that means the VA would be left holding the bag and vulnerable, and they don't want to take that risk. So that property might not qualify for VA approval. In their wisdom, when people own a home as a residence, they'll do anything they can to keep a roof over their head. But a second home, third home, investment home, they'll let those go to the bank because they still have a roof over their head. So that's more risky. And there's other factors too that the VA looks at, like the health of the HOA, making sure it's not, in a lawsuit or something like that. I look that up for you, so any property you want, I'll let you know if it's on the list or not. Between me and the lender, both will know. Okay?
Sounds good.
It's not that I don't want you to see the house. It's just, it might not qualify. So when it comes to the VA loan, there's no limit to how much entitlement they'll give you on that first house. I know we're looking at $600,000, but let's just fast forward and say you decided to stick in until you were, an LDO, 04E, right? Making tons of money running your own unit, and you want to buy a $3 million house in La Jolla. The VA loan would back that. If you can make the money, the VA will say, hey, we'll give you the full entitlement on that property, no problem. But the second you try to buy another property with a VA loan, that's when they say, hey, buddy, we got to put some limits on this. And then each county has its own limit, and I'll tell you about that one in a minute. Now, you can use that VA loan an unlimited number of times, okay? You buy a house with a VA loan, you turn around, sell it a few years later, move to another duty station. You can go buy another one as soon as you get there and do it all over again, over and over and over and over again. The only thing you got to watch out for is completely paying off a VA loan. Then you get into a different situation, but no one ever does that. Just make sure you don't completely pay off a VA loan. Sell the house first, right? But don't completely pay it off. And you can do it over and over and over again. Homes with VA loans can be rented out at any time. When you get ready to buy your house with a VA loan, do you plan on renting your property?
I do. Yes.
In the future, right?
In the future,
yeah. When you get ready to buy the house, there's going to be a document you sign that says, hey, I promise to live in this house as a primary residence for a year. I intend to occupy this property as a primary residence for a year. And then after that, you're good to go. But what happens if you move into your house and 3 months later, the monitor comes in and says, haha, just kidding, you're going to Japan. Like, what are you going to do, right? You're going to have to rent that house out. You intended to occupy it, right? And that's where there's not necessarily some enforcement arm that runs around checking on people, knocking on doors, like, hey, is Bill here? We'll make sure he's still living in this house, right? Doesn't really work that way, okay? But As long as you intend it and you have a good situation, a good story that you can essentially explain to the VA what happened, you're fine. You're not going to jail just because you rented the house out to somebody. And you can take on as many roommates as you want. That's like not even an issue at all, right? So if you have you buy yourself a 4-bedroom house and you only need 1 bedroom, you can rent the other 3 rooms out. It's nobody's business. And if you want to file taxes on that, that's your own business. But as far as the VA is concerned, they don't care. Okay. You can even have more than one VA loan at a time. Did you know that? Yeah. So let's just say you bought a small condo with your VA loan and you were well under your county loan limit. A year later, you find another place you like better. You can move in, use a VA loan on the second condo, as long as you're under that VA loan limit amount, because you're just buying 2 little condos. Rent the first house out, live in the second one, both with a VA loan. Pretty cool, right?
It is.
Yeah. The whole purpose of the program is to help veterans have primary ownership residences. So you need to move into the second house. You'll have to write a little letter to the VA and explain why you're moving to this house from this one. Not much, just saying, hey, this is a bigger house. I've grown a little bit. This is a better part of the neighborhood, and it makes sense to rent this one out. And the VA is going to give you no problems with that. If you can afford 3 small condos under that VA county loan limit, you can do that too. Just keep leapfrogging them, but eventually you'll outgrow that loan limit with houses at some point. But you can have more than 1 house at a time. Okay. Now let's talk about those VA county loan limits. Those county loan limits are based on cost of living. Right. And this is the benefit of being in Southern California. Right now, this chart needs to be updated, but right now, San Diego County is sitting just over $1 million for total loan limit. If you go up to Sacramento County, it's even, it's super high. If you go up to, let's see, who's the next one? San Francisco County. It's astronomical. It's like $1.2 million, $1.3 million up there.
And that's just the amount that they'll guarantee.
Yes. You can go beyond that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the thing to keep in mind is that loan limit applies to wherever you're about to buy the next house. So if you bought a house in Florida and it was just like a little $250,000 unit, and then you move to San Diego, Florida's loan limit might be like $500,000, but San Diego's is $1 million. So that $250,000 that you spent in Florida would count against the $1 million you have here, but that still leaves $750,000 worth of buying power. Flip that around. Say you bought a $450,000 or $500,000 home here in San Diego, even though you got a ton left here in San Diego, and then you get orders to Florida, we can't buy anything in Florida because you've used up here what the total amount would be out there. So then you're tapped out. So it pays to buy cheap there and then move to a bigger pond, but that's how it works. It's wherever you're moving to that they put that loan limit in place. All right. Now, I want to talk real quick about what that remainder is, because you brought that up a second ago. When it comes to using the full amount of your entitlement, let's go through this example. Let's just say you're in a place that has an $880,000 available loan limit, right? And you use $500 of it. That means you got $380 left over. Well, say, you're like, hey, Matt, I do want to buy another place, but I don't quite have the full entitlement that I need. No problem. You can actually make up the difference on your own. So what they'll do is they'll take that $380,000 that you have, and they'll put it on the lower half of your next house, right? So let's just say you want to buy another $500,000 house, just to keep it easy. They're going to cover that lower half of $380,000. You just need to put a down payment on the upper half that's exposed of 25%. So by this math, that's $120,000 that's exposed that you need to cover. You just put 25% on that, which is about $30,000. You bring $30,000, which is your TSP. Boom, you got yourself 2 houses there with the VA loan because you made up the difference. Real hack is if you want to refinance this first house conventional in a couple of years, free up that entitlement again, leapfrog it to your next property, and next thing you know, you're just doing this over and over again, buying one house after the next with the VA loan, using $0 to $30,000 down at a clip, versus that $100,000 that we were talking about before. Mm-hmm. By the time that guy comes up with $100,000, you'll be on your 3rd house. Make sense?
It does.
Yeah. I want you to understand how this works, not necessarily because you're going to be using it, but because I think it's really important for service members to understand this program and to share this word with other service members so they know how these things work so they can take advantage of it. There's nothing better. There's no better chain of communication than the military underground, the smoke pit. So I want you to have a good understanding of this so you can share the word. A few things to know is it's got to be an owner-occupied home. This can't be for a rental property that you never plan to move in. So how you might ask, like, how would the bank know if I plan to move into it or not? Well, if you live in San Diego and you work in San Diego and you buy a house in Alabama, they're probably realizing that you're not going to live in a house in Alabama, right? Mm-hmm. So then that's when they would say, like, hey, buddy, this doesn't make sense, right? Little things like that would out you. Otherwise, you would sign that sheet of paper that says you intend to occupy, and then it's like, well, threat of perjury, right? So you don't want to do that, and the lender's not going to take a chance on you. Like I said, there's not necessarily an enforcement agency that's coming by knocking on your doors after you close on the house. Just, I would say, if you do have to move out of your house within a year, just be reasonable and have a good plan. Don't do anything crazy. Don't be the guy that moves in and then a month later starts putting his house up for lease everywhere and then bragging to all his friends that he's just turned it into a rental property. Like, that's not what it's for. It's for people that you intend to occupy it, but your situation changes and you need to be prepared to make that case with anybody who asks when it comes time. Okay. Veterans and non-married civilians can buy a house together, and then non-married veterans can also put their VA loans together. And this is, I'll show you in a second what that looks like. But with, you say you have two non-married veterans, they both have an entitlement. When they come together to buy a property, it's going to take an equal portion out of each of their entitlements. So say you have a $500,000 house, and they're going to go ahead and take $250 from each person, and you're set, done, right? And they're going to cover the 25% of the entitlement on that $250, but they will have used $250 of their entitlement each, and they could both go and use their entitlement for a second property after that, but they will have $250 encumbered, right? And then veterans and non-married civilians. So if it's your spouse, they're going to give you the VA, the whole kit and caboodle for the VA. But if you're not married and you got a civilian that comes along, they're going to take your half of it. They're going to go ahead and take the $250 entitlement for your half, but then that's civilian, and it has to be their money. And they got to be a paper trail to show it's their money. But then they can just put 25% down on their half, and then you can get the house together, which is a combined total of only 12.5% down, which is still great with no PMI, no MIP, and a low interest rate, with the VA, backing you if things get weird. That's a cool deal. It really is a good deal. I wouldn't recommend any of these strategies for just about anybody because you're talking about like a business partnership, and that's just dicey. I think you're better off just buying a place on your own at that point, but that's possible. The VA charges like we said, the 2.15, and then it goes up to, I misspoke earlier, it goes from 2.15 to 3.3% for the subsequent uses after that, and that's third, fourth, fifth, forever and ever. You can, if you put a down payment on a house too, just so you know, that VA funding fee can be reduced, right? So if you put a few percentage points down, however much you put down, it will continue to drop the rate, and the lender can tell you how much it drops the funding fee.
So this is 2.3% of the loan amount, correct?
Yeah, but the way that they look at it is, once you go and start to put money down, essentially it lowers the funding fee itself, not just the total loan amount. That's not the mechanism. The mechanism is when they see that you put so much percentage down on the house, they'll go ahead and reduce the funding fee accordingly. And there's like certain numbers for it. You have to talk to the lender about it. Most people don't do it, but if you do find yourself saying, hey, I want to, I actually want to put some money down on this house just to put some money into it and to lower my payments, the side effect is you can also get your funding fee reduced too. You can pay that at close of escrow, or you can stretch it out over the 30 years like we talked about. We talked about disabled veterans. And something else you also need to know is when the appraiser goes out to the house with the VA,
If they appraise that house at 500,000, you're good to go. If they appraise it at 550, you're good to go. But if they appraise it for less than 500, you can't get a loan for more than 500. They're going to have to either accept a price reduction on the seller side, or you're going to have to make up the difference to the seller with your own money. So say they come in at like 480, you're going to have to bring 20 grand to the table cash to the seller to make up the difference, and then you'll get a loan for 480. But the VA will not write a loan for higher than what that VA appraisal comes out to be. The only difference is they will put that funding fee on top. So you'll get a loan for 512 because of the funding fee, even if it appraises for 500, but that's the only exception. And as far as they're concerned, that's just a surcharge. But they're willing to accept that risk, but not for the appraised value. And then we talked about what to drop it. All right, so now you are officially a mortgage expert. You know all the numbers, you understand how all the things work as far as getting yourself the best pre-approval possible. What you need to know about the pre-approval is it's free. It's required in order to, in a lot of cases, show homes, but definitely before putting in an offer. Because anytime we put in an offer, they're going to want that pre-approval with it to see that you have bullets in the gun. No listing agent's going to look at your offer unless they have the pre-approval with it. You can get that done in a day on your part. It's up to you how long that takes. And seeing homes that you love slip away because you don't have the pre-approval done yet is painful. But getting the pre-approval done and having it in your pocket and never putting in an offer is a safe bet. I'd rather you do it that way. I'd rather you get the pre-approval done, have it at your disposal, be ready to rock and roll, and then we not find the house than the other way around and see a house that you love slip away because you're like, oh, I love this house. Let me go talk to lending, and 2 days later, 3 days later, you get pre-approval, and then the house is gone. It's like you don't want to do it that way. So again, early detection is key. Talking with the lender early, because this happens sometimes. Do you look at your credit regularly?
Typically, about every other month.
Yeah. Well, what's your score roundabout?
740.
740, great. That's an excellent number. If you were, say, closer to like 680, right, for credit score, and then something funky happened and it actually dropped down by a couple of points, that could take you from the good medium to the low, and that could affect your interest rate like pretty significantly, versus if you go from 730 to 750. That's like right in the middle of the beltway. It's not going to change your interest rate that much. But what concerns a lot of people is if they go and get their credit pulled, oh, that's going to hurt my credit score. If it drops a couple of points, you know, dropping you from like 680 to 677, because that's about all it's going to do, really, is a couple of points. That could be the difference between being in that really good rate and the not so great rate, right? But if there was something on your credit and you weren't aware of it, and then the lender goes to pull credit, and he's like, hey man, you got this like fraud thing on your credit card or whatever, like your account's frozen or something, you're like, what the hell? And then you have to go fight that. That could take you 30 to 90 days to go fight some stupid thing on your credit. Wouldn't you be happy to have that out of the way and know about it before, like months before you're ready to go buy a house, than like, hey, I'm hot to trot and there's a house on Main Street I love, and now you're finding yourself trying to fight credit and, you know, get that stuff wiped off your credit. So early detection, long story short, is much better than waiting till the last minute to get pre-qualified. Pre-quals are good for 90 days. If we go past 90 days for some reason, like say you get deployed or whatever, or we go over the holidays, we need to take a little break, it's fine, happens all the time. We just need to go back to lending, they re-pull the credit again, and then that gives us another 90 days. Because that's really the only thing that like expires as far as their pre-approval, unless you change your job or something. And as long as nothing of that changes, it's just the credit pull that expires and they have to redo that again. Makes
Gotcha.
sense? Cool. So that being said, the next thing for us to do is take a break here. I want to get you connected with lending, and I think based on what we've talked about here today and some of your numbers, like preliminarily, I think you're in really good shape to talk to my top lender. His name's Bob, John, Tom, whatever. He's going to be a really good fit for you. What I'll do is get you connected with a joint text message to get you introduced. He'll give you a call, have a couple minute conversation, then he's going to send you an application. Don't freak out about the application. It doesn't mean that you're signing up to get the loan. It just gives that person the basic information they need to start the pre-approval. Until you sign that you want a loan, nothing's official, okay? Cool. And then I want to go over a dream sheet with you. Okay, now that we've talked about all the ins and outs of the escrow process and stuff, let's get into talking about what you actually want in the house, and then we'll have that ready to rock and roll. So I'll show you what that dream sheet looks like right now.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate your help very much, yes.
All right. I'm going to send this home with you, okay? Because I want you to take some time with the family, put in the information, think this through and stuff. But I'm just going to go over it real quickly so you see what we're talking about here. I put this together for the company, and I started with a map here because a lot of people, they see listings online, they get into the Zillow thing, and then they look at a house and they're like, oh, but that one's a little bit further away. I like it. That one's a little bit further away. I like it. That one's a little bit. Next thing you know, they're 60 miles from home, and they're like, oh, let's go look at a house in this neighborhood. I think it's important to start with looking at the map to see where we ultimately want to be in space. That way we're not going 2 hours from home looking at houses, and then the day it's time to go see them, we're like, wait a second, that's a 2-hour drive. What are we doing? Makes sense. So if we're working, well, what base do you work on right now?
Camp Pendleton.
Camp Pendleton, great. So we're just up here in North County. Anything Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, Lake Elsinore, and all that's going to be within striking distance. All the way down is, I would say you don't want to go any further than probably the 56 down here is probably going to be a little bit too far. Yeah. So we're going to be hanging out up in this territory. So all these places up here are going to be a green light for us. Just off the cuff, we'll get into more details. First thing I want to know is what's the life plan. Okay, some people have an idea of where things are going in 3 years. Some people up to 5. I've even had some people have a 10-year plan, which is crazy. A lot changes in 10 years, right? That's a long outlook. But I want to have an idea of, are there kids coming? Are there kids leaving? Are there retirements coming? Are we going to be getting out of the service? Are we going to be looking at promotions? What's the picture look like over the next 3 to 5 years? That way when we buy a house, we want to make sure if we have the arc of where our life is going over 3 years or 5 years, then we can find the right house that fits on that arc. What we don't want to do is go shopping for houses and then try to build a life that fits around some house we bought because we thought it was cute. Because it's going to be real good for about a week, and then suddenly you're going to realize that you've had to change your whole life for this place, and that's not acceptable. So we want to think life first, and then find a house that plugs into that. Make sense?
Does.
Cool. All right, so why do we want to own a property? What's the pain, what's the pleasure? In your situation right now, are you running from something, or are you just looking for, a bright future?
It's looking for a bright future.
Cool, so it's not like you have like noisy neighbors or anything like that that's really bothering you.
No, not at all.
Perfect. And would you say it's more like monetary, or just like the intrinsic, ownership experience of having a place you can call your own?
I would say it's monetary.
Yeah, you want to make some money, get some equity over the next couple of years,
Exactly, yeah.
pay yourself instead of a landlord.
100%.
Yeah. How much you paying in rent right now?
My whole BAH check, which is about $3,500, $3,600
You're in housing?
Yes,
Oh, what a waste.
exactly.
Yeah, trying to get your sink fixed takes them about like 2 weeks, or has it gotten better?
Hasn't gotten any worse.
Got it. And then they get mad if you do it yourself. 'Cause,
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we want to take that BH that we're giving away, and we actually want to put it into our own pocket, right?
Exactly.
And you mentioned as well, like maybe buying future properties too, having rentals and stuff. So really looking to set ourselves up for success.
Yes, 100%.
Beautiful. How long we're going to own the property? Will we sell and rent it? We just talked about that. If we have a 3-year plan, then that's as far as it's going to go. But if you say, hey, I know I'm going to live in it for sure for 3 years, but then it's up to the monitor what happens after that, but I definitely want to keep it, cool. We're going to own the property indefinitely, and then yes, we will rent it out. Some people are absolutely like opposed to renting a place out, and they're like, no, I need to move in. I'm going to move out in 3 years when the detailer comes. and I know that. Awesome. Knowing that could be the difference between buying house A and house B. House A might be located near the college, and it might not be as, comfortable for lifestyle purposes, but it's going to be a great rental when you leave in 3 years. That is a completely different arc for us, so we want to understand that. Who's going to live in the house?
It's me, the wife, and the dog.
Yeah, is that going to change in the future?
I think so. I think we're going to have a +1 here pretty soon.
Ah, very cool. And I'm going to give you a congratulations in advance.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we want to buy a house anticipating all the people that are moving in. Sometimes you can anticipate it, like mother-in-law, father-in-law move in, or you have the cousin that comes back, from rehab or whatever, needs a place. Life throws us all kinds of things. I've had them all. But, if there's somebody in mind that we need to prepare for, let's think through that way we're ready for it when the time comes. All right. I want you to think where you want to live. And if you don't know where you want to live, definitely want to know where we don't want to live. So we just talked about a good arc around Camp Pendleton for now, but you're going to be getting out in about a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you're still going to be around Camp Pendleton in a year?
I don't want to live too close to Camp Pendleton.
Okay, got it. So within striking distance for work now, but then once you're out, you don't want to be just completely immersed in all the Marines all the time, right?
Exactly.
Gotcha. So it's probably going to put us a little bit closer toward like that, South Vista, Fallbrook, or maybe even out like further north, like Lake Elsinore, or like maybe out to Menifee or something like that.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Easy. Any places that we don't want to live that come to mind besides Pendleton?
I don't want to live in Fallbrook. It's a little too tight-knit, too close together.
Gotcha. I'll make sure to keep that off the list. Cool. And when you think about where you want to live, I want you to consider as well where you might be going to work in the future, where you might be going to school, or your kids are going to be going to school, where your clubs and community events are. Where's your church? Do you ride a motorcycle?
No.
Or do you, I don't know, you're in any hobbies that have
love fishing.
Love fishing, great. So you might want to be somewhere that's, pretty decent access to a lake or something. Like you might want to be in near Lake Dixon and Escondido or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having an idea of where those places are going to really help us out too, because what I don't want you to do is live in a place that removes you from all the things that are near and dear in life, and then a year later you wake up and you're like, I got to travel an hour and a half just to go fishing. This is horrible, right? How much space do we need? Have you guys considered that?
We haven't considered that yet.
Do you know how much space you're living in now?
I think we're living in around, I want to say 900 square feet.
Oh, that's tiny. Yeah, for $500,000, $600,000, we could definitely do better than that. Most people, when they're either in housing or renting, only know like I'm in a 1-bedroom or I'm in a 2-bedroom. But when we talk about buying houses, they usually moves up to the square footage component. But that's good to know, because if you can fit comfortably in 900, when we move you up to 1,200, it's going to be
Significant difference.
oh yeah, definitely a tangible difference. How many rooms do we need?
At least 3.
At least 3.
At least 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, because we're thinking of a little one in the future. And will there be any family moving in with us? Or?
You never know. Always good to have a guest room.
Perfect. Yep. Love that. And with hobbies and stuff like that, what I find when I talk to a lot of folks is they want like extra bedrooms, and they want them for a specific reason. So if someone were to say, hey Matt, I have to have 4 bedrooms, but it's just a married couple, I would say, well, what are you going to do with the extra 3 rooms? Oh, well, you need a sewing room, a fitness room. Well, I would say, okay, well, what if I found you a 2-bedroom that had like, a huge like bonus garage or a big bonus space outside or something like that? Will that still work? They'd be, that'd be great. Okay, cool. So I won't just screen for 4-bedroom houses. I'll look at all 2 bedrooms and then look to see if they have that bonus space for us, so we don't miss out on anything, right?
Yes.
Cool. So that's how I would search that for you. And the big thing here is when we get ready, when we come together and we talk about this, when we fill it all out together, I'm going to plug all this stuff into a search for us. And I know how agents input information into the MLS. And the really great deals are the ones that slip through the cracks because the agents filled them out a certain way. So the way that I operate is I want to put a tighter, or a wider net than what we're looking for, and then chip that down by weeding out the things that don't fit. It's a little bit more work, but that's where we really find the gold. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, cool. Bathrooms, sounds like we're going to need probably at least 1.5, but 2 is ideal.
2 is ideal.
Yeah, that way you have a mommy, daddy, and then the tub for the little one and the dog, right?
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay. And then I want to understand, and you can take some time to think about this, but like how you live in your home. And I want you to think about that as in, do we spend 90% of our time in the living room and then just go sleep in the bedroom? Or do we spend 90% of our time in the bedroom and then the living room's just an ornament? Because that's going to determine a completely different style of house that we're looking at.
We spend most of our time in the living room, together space.
Okay, so open space home with small bedrooms is probably what we're looking for. Cool. Consider how much parking you need?
I've been exploring the idea of getting a roundabout driveway, like a drive-through driveway. If that makes sense.
Okay, that way you can just whip in and out real quickly.
Exactly.
Had some bad experiences with backing into traffic.
Exactly. Especially on a busier street. It's like you're sitting there waiting forever.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, so we'll definitely keep that in mind. Looking for easy in and out access of the home, if not just a straight teardrop driveway or an in and out driveway. It'd be cool if you can come off the main street and then drive past the house and then out to the back alley or something like that. Do you need a yard or patio specifically?
Fenced yard.
Fenced yard for the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And then garage, is that a mandatory deal breaker?
We do need a garage, yes.
Okay, cool. Would you say the garage is for cars or for other things like storage or fitness or?
For cars.
Just for cars, got it. And then we talked before briefly, detached home definitely, but maybe the right attached home, like the right townhome, if it's like a corner unit and it's a big one, would work too.
Yeah, that would be fine. So long as we have that garage, it should be fine.
Okay, perfect. Now I'll try to get you we'll look primarily at all the detached homes, but then as a fallback plan, because you might look at the detached homes and the ones in that price range are older and a little bit smaller, and they might just not be so great. But then you find yourself an in-unit townhome that's huge and beautiful, and you're like, "Whoa, I'll take the shared wall," for all those benefits, right? But we'll start with the detached search and then fall back as a defense to the attached home if we can't find anything in the price range.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. As far as single level, do you have any issues with going up and downstairs?
No.
Okay, great. And then as far as a washer and dryer in the unit, we're gonna, if we were looking at a smaller condo, that might be a thing. But I think all the units that we're looking at are gonna have laundry, probably inside the house. Is it okay if the laundry's in the garage?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, great. Now this section here, I want to talk about the condition of the home. All right, so take some time to think this through, but these are the 5 categories for the condition of the home. Number 1 is like a brand new house, like no one's ever lived in it. It's like superlative, or it's a fresh flipped house and everything in it is like great. The next one down is your level 2 is the same as that first house, but someone's probably lived in it for a couple of years. Scuffs, scratches, a little wear and tear. The cabinets might squeak a little bit, but otherwise, like it's pretty much ready to rock and roll. Like nothing needs to get done before you move in. You might opt to repaint or something like that, but you don't have to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Great. The third one down is this thing's been lived in pretty hard or for a long time. You can smell the old owners, or you can smell pets or something from the previous owners, or the paint color was awful, outdated, or someone painted it themselves and it's just a botched paint job. Or the floors are shot, like the carpets, you can see like the runway from the footprints in the carpet, where it's like on the side of the hallway it stands up, but then in the middle of the hallway it's just flat as marble, That has to get done before you move in. If it's something that has to get done before you move in, you're looking at least 10 grand for decent paint and carpet, like on a mid-size home, right? And that's not something that's like optional. That would be like, it has to get done before we move in. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Next one down would be if this place was really beat up and it needed new baths. New baths are going to cost you at least 10 grand a pop just for a small bathroom in today's prices. If you can get somebody to do it cheaper, that's great, but I wouldn't budget for any less than 10 grand for a remodeled bathroom. And a kitchen, depending on the size, minimum $50,000. Like if you're going to get new cabinets, counters, and appliances, you're in it for 50 grand without batting an eye, okay? And the reason I bring this up is a lot of people get an idea that they're just going to get in a DIY place and they're like, yeah, I'll go do this with sweat equity, and they realize it's too much work, they're too busy, they've got kids, they live in the house, it's too hard, And then they're like, all right, well, we're gonna go hire somebody. Eek, 10 grand, eek, 50 grand. Next thing you know, they're living in a house that's pretty terrible and they're very unhappy. And I don't want that to happen to you. Okay. And then a total rehab on a house, if it's a tiny little condo, 50 grand. But if it's a full-size house, you're in it for at least 100 grand without even batting an eye to fully remodel a house. We're not looking to do that, right?
No, I'd say scuffs and scratches at most.
Okay, perfect. That's gonna be like 70% of the houses that are out there, so that's great. I'll try to find you the best house that I can for the price, don't get me wrong, but it's important for me to know like what your pain tolerance is. All right, so target monthly payment.
Target monthly payment is going to be below 37.5 is what the BAH is, and the hard
Okay.
stop will be 37.5.
Got it. So target monthly payment, BAH, you said 37.50?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and you said hard stop is how much?
37.50.
Okay, so you're just like, hey, 37.5 is like, that's the number.
It's the free money I'm getting.
Okay,
I'm not
perfect.
really use it.
So I want you to think through this, okay? You find a perfect home and it's $100,000 under value and it's got everything you need and there's even a lake right around the corner from the house. And if you really wanted to, you could cut straight through the woods to get there to go fishing. It's turnkey, it's ready to rock and roll. It's got your 3 bedrooms and a huge yard and you can have it right now. What's the magic number that you're willing to pay monthly to get that dream house?
I would probably go up to 4,000.
Okay, so that's our real hard stop. And the reason that I bring that up is because once we go out into the market, a phenomenon happens. You realize that after a certain price point, people start to be able, fewer and fewer people can afford a house as prices go up. So you get more and more for your dollar disproportionately as you go up. Like the starting point, like you're not gonna get a house for any less than like $3,500 a month. That's just out of the question because that's where most people can afford. So there's no houses for that, not really. But then after you go from $3,500 a month up, fewer people can afford it. So you can get a lot more house, like an extra $100 a month can take you from a 1.5 bath to a 2, or an extra $500 a month will take you from 3 bedrooms to 4, and so on and so forth. The moral of the story is once we get out there shopping, the market will pull you up to your highest dollar amount. And I need to know when to pull you off the blackjack table because it happens every time. Make sense?
It does.
Okay, great. Now, if you want to override that 4,000 once we get started, you say, Matt, I've come to my senses. Like, this is just going to cost me a lot more than I was planning for, but it's okay. I'll pay off the car, or we've decided that we're going to, move this money over, we'll make do, or we're going to go ahead and open it up and bring in a family member as a roommate or something. Cool, we'll have that conversation, we'll reset that number. What I don't want you to do is get into a passion and be like, I'll pay $4,500 for this house, and then regret it halfway through escrow. So I'll make sure that we're feet on the ground, level-headed. Well, I don't think that's a problem with you, but it happens with people all the time once we get into the market. Make sense?
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Just looking out for you. Cause me, if we have a bad time, it'll be horrible. But I've done that a few hundred times. I'll be fine. I'll go back out tomorrow and I'll do it again. But for you, if you have a bad time, it could be the difference between you moving forward buying a house or not. It can, you're the stakeholder in this. So I don't want you to have a situation that's regrettable and irredeemable, right? This section here, it's just asking you for anything else that's important to you. Like, do you need a flat yard? Like, are you opposed to hillsides? Or does it have to be a place with a pool? Or does it have to be an oversized lot or anything like that? And then down here is anything else that you can think of. Now, what I want you to do is go back with the wife, put some time into this, jot it down. You don't have to fill it out on here, but if you just write it down on a notepad or something like that, I want you to think through all this stuff, and then we'll reconvene again and look at it all. And what we'll do is we'll take the pre-approval from the lender, and then we'll take this dream sheet and we'll run them and we'll overlap them. And we'll say, hey, can we actually find within the price range that the lender has given us and what our monthly payment, threshold is? Can we find a house that fits this, or do we need to move some things around? And if we do see that, hey, there's some daylight here, we can buy houses that fit this, we're immediately gonna pull up the search, start the search right there, and then kick off the shopping. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. I'll send you a copy of this right now. And then I'll send you the copy of the slide deck. That way you can have it. And you're like, what did he say about XYZ? Because we covered a lot of ground today. And then I'm going to get you paired up with the lender 2 days so we start that conversation with the lender.
Sounds good.
You excited?
I'm excited.
Does it feel real?
No.
That was a good or a bad thing. All right, we'll take a break from here, and then I'll send this stuff over, and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All
man.
right, great. Now, when you guys do this, that's a lot of information to cover. You don't have to go through the full seminar with people. It's important in that 15-minute phone call you have with your guys to
Yeah.
size up how much that really matters.
Quick grasp.
Exactly. Now, I didn't have to go into the VA stuff if you didn't really care. If you told me earlier that you were just going to buy one house and you're going to live there for the next 30 years, I would have skipped over all the VA stuff.
I did want to ask because I didn't know. What happens if you pay off your VA loan?
Yeah, so that's kind of like the weird trick with the VA. They say if you pay off the VA loan, then you're done. Like,
You never use it
you've
again.
satisfied the program. But it's not really that black and white, right? So like you could make the case with the VA that you want to reinstate your VA and someone could override it. Yeah. But no one's like, it's just one of those weird little corners.
That's kind of funky. Like, oh, you can refinance your loans as much as you want.
Uh-huh.
But if you pay it off, you're screwed. That's funny.
Exactly. It's not that it makes sense. It's just, it's a game, and games have rules, and we
Mhm.
don't always agree with the rules, but them's the rules, you know? Like the funding fee. Why does it have to go from 2.15 to 3.3? Who said that? I don't know. Some guy made the rule, and some guy changed it a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah, all your active duty veterans, you got to pay a 3-point-something% funding fee, but if you're more than 10% disabled, nothing, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So
I
it's
know
really like the active duty guys are the ones that are paying the cost for everybody to get the program.
And there's more veterans than there are active duty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By a long shot.
Sorry, I'm so sorry, but I have a question. So I was doing an open house in Poway. It was listed like 1.3, but I talked to this lady, and she wanted to like work with me to like try to put an offer in, but she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it yet, whatever, that kind of game.
Yeah.
And I guess one was like, hey, your client, call your client for the house in Poway, because the offer she wanted to put in was lowball, so they're not accepting it. See
So
if
she
I-
put it in with somebody else?
that's what I'm like thinking, like what's going on? Or does she go and contact the listing agent directly from like the Zillow
You
listing?
should ask Tawanda like that situation. Like, how do you know this? And
Because I didn't put that offer in.
Yeah.
But she was talking to me like
yeah,
about doing that. So I'm just like, what really happened?
we should just call her.
Because if she went through somebody else,
Yeah, it happens all the time. And again, like I know it's an overkill to go through all this stuff with people, but what I've found by going through all this with people is one, they realize that buying a home is actually bigger than they thought it was.
Mhm.
And the financing world is an even bigger part of it than they thought it was. And then once they realize how big it is, it gets a little intimidating. Like they're like, wait a second, like there's a lot more to this to consider than I thought. But who's standing there ready to take them the rest of the way through? You showed them how big the world is, but you're also the one holding their hand, right? That is twofold useful because one, there's no surprises, right? So when people actually get started on that process, they're like, yeah, my agent told me about all this shit. Like, I know it's coming.
Mhm.
But then also, no, my agent knows this stuff. He's my guy. I don't trust anybody else to walk me through this because it's big and it's scary. That's going to keep them, like you said, from going around you and just putting in an offer with some other average Joe. Once they realize how much of this world that there is out there to be worried about. But they're not worried. They're confident because they got you, right? My stick-to-itiveness with clients has been, I would say, like top 5%. You know, the only people that didn't buy with me during the process was because they had another family member get in their head and like force them to. It wasn't necessarily their choice. It was outside pressures for some reason, or they just decided not to buy because the whole thing was scary. Right? You could even, if you have somebody that's new and that's young, and you're like, I just want to make sure this person gets the gravity of how expensive a house is. You could start your 101 like we did with that couple at Starbucks what are you guys looking to pay per month on a house out of curiosity? Even before you open the laptop. And if they're like 2,500, you're like, cool, is that your top dead number? And they're like 26, you're like, awesome. Maybe we should wait until you like, you know, bump up a pay grade or two, because realistically you're not going to find anything less than 35. You know, but, you know, if there's something you can do to get up to 35, then, you know, let's talk about it. They're like, whoa, that's way too much money. All right, cool.
Well,
They just don't understand.
then you're not ready yet.
Yeah. So much comes from that 15-minute phone call, but what we went over here is the full end to end. So this would be like tailored for somebody like you who wants to own many properties over a period of time, that want to build up a lot of value. They want to understand the VA loan cold, and you know, they want to go into this with a decent like understanding of the lending thing.
You know, something funny is when that's not recording, I'll tell you.
Do you want me to
You can
turn-
actually turn it off now.